Hope this love sink in. Got love for my neighbor, agape phileo. Let me be more convincing. You can dive in and exegete or sense to dissect the scripture. Where Bishop, we show love. Or if you a sinner, transgender like Bruce Jenner, well, Caitlyn, we show more love. Basic man, don't subtract, divide it. God can take one love, then add or multiply it. Don't want to swear by it. I promise if you don't have love, your life will be full of the opposite. And that's a big mistake. You trying to demonstrate all love, instinct like Justin Timberlake. And that's a big mistake. You trying to demonstrate all love, instinct like Justin Timberlake. It costs $1 million. If it was free, I love you, you love me. It's the love scene, love scene, love scene, love scene, love scene.
What's going on out there, good old Facebook fam? This is Love Sync Ministries Love Talk. I am Brother Dog McGriff, and this is
Deidre McGriff.
And once again, this is Love Talk, and as we always say, we appreciate you being here with us. It is Friday. Hey, it's a time to kick back and relax. If you've been out there with a hard week, kick back and just enjoy yourself. Get you something to... I got this tea and I made it too hot. Yep, still too hot so. But get you something to kick back, relax, throw your feet up and just enjoy yourself while we talk to you about different little topics and stuff that's going on that we looked at and checked out today. And we are so happy to bring them to you. But before we get started on that, let's go ahead and get these commercials running out the way. And we'll be right back with you after that to get this love talk started. So here we go.
Is your credit score not what it used to be? Are you ready to move forward in 2019 and do all the things you didn't do in 2018 because of your credit? Then wait no more. Your help is just a phone call away. Call Credit Man Credit Services, LLC at 866-308-5437. That's 866-308-5437. Extension 1. Change your credit, change your life. It's cold outside and you're inside trying to stay warm by the fireplace with your hot cocoa. It's time to settle down with a good book. Check out Unapologetically Gray by Tracy Demas Barley. You can get this hot new book on Amazon.com or go to TracyBarley.com. That's Tracy with an I, B-Y-E-R-L-Y. That's TracyBarley.com. Don't be left out on this conversation. Get your copy of Unapologetically Gray now. If you just started your new business and need office space, or if you have a home office and would like to meet clients or potential clients in a professional atmosphere, then go to YagerProperties.com. Check out their office buildings in Frisco, Plano, McKinney, and Allen. They are a Christian-owned company and welcome you to get your new office space or just holding meetings. Let them know Love Sync Ministries referred you and go to YagerProperties.com. That's YEAGER Properties.com.
All right. Once again, I didn't get my kiss. I forgot about that. All right. Like I said, this is Love Talk, and we're always here at 8 p.m. Texas time. And we thank you guys for joining us and having a conversation with us. And Miss Lady, what is our first topic today?
Well, we would like to talk about what happens when we do not deal with trauma in our lives. And when we talk about trauma, trauma can result from a lot of things. You know, divorce can bring a lot of people trauma, the hurt, the pain, the bitterness.
Well, let's not even, we can talk about what do we do about it, but let's talk about, because I didn't even know I had it, you know, and I just realized it, you know, I didn't really call it that, but a lot of us have post-traumatic stress disorder, and we don't even know we had it. We didn't even know that's what it was. And like I said, until today, I didn't realize that's what it was. But and I was in the military, but I didn't have to go to Iraq or Afghanistan or anything like that. You know, I just going to the field training and you know, just in case something does kick off. But you know, 11 years in the Army, I was fortunate enough to not have to go fight anybody. So you know, but even with that, there was still little pockets of things that now that I know. And with post-traumatic stress disorder, let me read a little bit of the definition of it. It says a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress occurring as a result of an injury or severe psychological shock, typically involving disturbance of sleep and constant vivid recall of the experience with dull responses to others and to the outside world. Let me read that one more time to you. It says post-traumatic stress disorder is a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress. So think about that part. Just that part alone is a condition of persistent. That means something that's constantly happening. Mental and emotional distress occurring as a result of injury or severe psychological shock, typically involving disturbance of sleep and constant vivid recall. Constant vivid recall of the experience, or whatever that experience is that you're having. So that post-traumatic stress disorder covers a lot of things that we didn't even think that's what it was. And
well, I don't know, you know, I'm not gonna say post-traumatic, and I'm sure that's what it is, but I have known about trauma, and trauma I've seen it in the life, even my own life, and I've seen in life a lot of other people, but many times they haven't identified, like you said, what it is.
Okay, so hold right there. So you said you don't know if you want to call it trauma.
No, I said it is trauma.
Oh, okay. So
yes.
what was it that you didn't want to call it? You didn't.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know about the names or whatever,
yeah,
but I've seen trauma played out like you said, many times.
And it was something that you've already seen it happen, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen it in my own life.
So if it happened after that makes it post, not pre. You got pre and post, so it happened afterward, so it's post-traumatic. Because now, it's like you're saying, you're recalling events and stuff that happened after the fact. So then that's why it's considered post-traumatic syndrome disorder. All right, go ahead.
And like I said, basically with any amount of trauma, if you don't deal with it, it always, you know, things get worse when you don't deal with a level of trauma. And like I was saying, people can have trauma from all kind of things. Like I was just saying, some people have trauma due to a divorce. It's the overwhelming, because basically, trauma, a lot of times people go into an emotional calamity, and you know their emotions are just way out of whack. And so a lot of times it could be, like you said, some traumatic event that happens in people's life that causes this. And you know, loss, grief, you know, loss of a loved one can bring a certain amount of trauma. You know, you can have some people have spiritual trauma, all kind of heartbreaks in their life, you know, unstable family life environment. You know, I've seen people whose parents had some type of addiction, drug addict, which caused that child a whole lot of trauma. So for me, I didn't realize it was trauma till God in my later years helped me to identify what some of the trauma was. And because a lot of times you don't even, like you said, you don't even know or have a name to it and what it is. And so with a lot of things that happened with my mom early on when I was young, and just like, ooh, you know, with my nerves and dealing with a lot of that stuff. See, I didn't realize that at an early age, the enemy had already planted a seed, you know, to disrupt at an early age, because a lot of that trauma started with my mom, and I didn't even realize it until I got a lot older. Some of the emotional impact that they had, you know, like, you know what I mean?
You gonna talk about it, or you just gonna go dance around it?
Well, no, I'm just.
See, because I want to give people examples so that if they don't know and they haven't been diagnosed or something, or they don't think it is what it is, then they should hear examples. So then that way, you know, hey, that's kind of similar to what I'm going to go with mine, because like I said, I didn't realize. So me and my sister, when, I don't know, like 8 or 9, and she could have been like 4 or 5. But, you know, my grandma, man, my grandma was my grandma, you know. Grandma is grandma. And so this was late 60s, early 70s. And so we found our grandma dead. So, and then I touched her body and everything. It was cold. So I didn't realize it then. But again, just like it said, it's a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress. So what happened from that point on, I was scared of dying. I mean, I would just freak out. You know, I would just sit there if I'm not doing anything, and then I would just think about dying, and then I just get all panicky and anxiety, and I just like bust out, I'm gonna die. And I did that from that time. I mean, I did it, you know, in school, even in school. If I was just in school, I would think about it. But, you know, I kind of contained myself. I couldn't, you know, like just scream out like that. Mm-hmm. But, man, I knocked windows off of hinges because I was sitting by the window in school. And I then, as I got older and I joined the military and you know, and with some roommates and in different training situations, I scream out at night. And they be like, hey, man, something wrong. What's going on, man? You all right? You all right? I like, yeah, man, everything's cool. Then in my first marriage, you know, I would scream out, you all right? You all right? So, I mean, from the time that my grandma died when I was 8 or 9, like I said, that was late 60s, early 70s, all the way up to 1995 or 96, once I got saved and God helped me deal with that. So all those years, that was a post-traumatic stress syndrome, but I didn't know that's what you call it. I didn't know. And then and it was always, every time I heard it, it was always associated with the military. So I didn't think nothing of it. But now that I actually looked at the actual definition of it, so now I know all those years that I was suffering from that post-traumatic stress syndrome from me finding my grandmother dead and actually touching the body and everything. And that was my first ever encounter with a dead body. And then it happens to be my grandmother, somebody that I love. And so, yeah, man, that kicked off years of like I said, just that mental and emotional stress of dying because I found my grandmother dead. And like I said, that vivid recall. I mean, it's all perfect right there in the definition, that perfect recall of her dying and just setting me off. And so, like I said, and it wasn't like, and what's so crazy about it, it wasn't until today that I just noticed, man, you had post-traumatic stress syndrome.
And so, and you probably, like most people, when there's a level of trauma in their life, it's never really dealt or talk about it.
Well, you know, the black community, we didn't, especially at that time, we ain't nobody going to no counselors and therapists and stuff like that. You know, you just deal with it. So, and then plus being that young, well, you know, something I gotta say, well, I guess, again, they didn't do it because I would do it sometime. I would just be sitting in the back of the car as we driving to town. And I just remember just going off again. Hey, boy, what's wrong with you? Calm down. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. So that's all my parents said about it. It's going to be all right. Calm down. You're going to be all right.
Did they know that it was because of that?
I mean, they should have known. It happened at that time, right after my grandmother died. Then that's when it all started happening. So I'm sure they could have put 2 and 2 together. But again, at that time, we didn't do therapy. We didn't go to counseling. So they just figured it would just heal itself in time. You know what I'm saying? So, but it like I said, it never did. Until, like I said, in the mid to late 90s, once I got saved, and then God started dealing with me with it, then that's when it stopped.
Wow, that was a long time.
And I still think about it, but it doesn't take me to where it used to. You know, but everybody think about dying every now and then. But I don't, you know, I don't do those outbursts anymore because, like I said, I know God loves me and I know where I'm going and what's happening. So that's what squashed all that. But
So
before that,
were you able to go to any funerals at all, or much at all? Or how
I've gone to funerals since then. So that like I said, going to a funeral wasn't the issue, and going to a funeral really didn't kick anything off. It was just those certain times. I don't know what brought it on, and nothing. I could just be doing nothing or sitting there, and then like I said, it would just build up, and then I would just have an outburst about dying. And like I said, and all that stemmed from me finding my grandmother dead. So
wow,
but that was a long time to deal with it, and nobody really noticing anything or saying. And that's another thing, and that's another subject to talk about, how we let stuff go in the black community and don't get help for it. We always just say, well, they'll be all right, as long as they're not hurting anybody or whatever. It'll be all right. They'll grow out of it. Time will heal itself and all that old crazy stuff. But we need to start dealing with that. But like I said, I just realized that today, all these years, I had post-traumatic stress syndrome because of finding my grandmama died.
Wow. And see, at 8 or 9 years old, when you find someone, that's deceased like that, and not knowing how to properly process it too, and then, not having someone to come and explain to you about death as a Christian, it just, you really do have to have somebody to help to deal with those emotions and feelings too, and that's what you needed, and you didn't, like I said, didn't have. So you were just doing the best you could in your own strength, huh?
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that too. In your own strength.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing that happens again. As we talk, we say that's why people end up committing suicide when stuff goes wrong and go down, especially if they're not a believer, because they don't have that God, that power of God, that love of God that is lifting them up through that hard time, and understand that's who's carrying you through that hard time. So like I said, I was trying to handle it. I wasn't saved during none of that time. And so I was trying to handle it and deal with it on my own, which I didn't know what to do on my own as far as handling that trauma. So again, it wasn't until I got saved and got into the love of God, then that's what helped me deal with it. But all those years, like I said, from the late 60s or early 70s, all those years up into the mid to late 90s, did I finally get over it once I got saved and stuff. And
I was just saying, is you had the same experience as a friend of mine, and this happened actually just a few weeks ago. I had a friend, who dealt with that. A very good friend of mine, where she found her mother, and the mother, she was in high school. I think she was in the 10th grade, 11th grade, somewhere in there. And so she, here recently, she just kind of had a meltdown, and it's been over 20 years. And when I talked to her, what she said, just kind of like what happened with you when you found your grandmother, she never dealt with it. And then also, she was feeling like it was her fault because she wasn't able to keep her from dying, right? She was not able to do anything. And so that really bugged her. And so when I talked to her a couple of weeks ago and I asked her, she said she never had dealt with it. And that's why she was having that mental meltdown. And so then she said her sisters never even knew how she felt about it. And I go, bless your heart, that's a long time to carry that. And she said, but she really see now it's important to deal. When we have certain traumas, we have to deal with them. You know what I mean? You really do have to deal with them spiritually, naturally, whatever you need, whatever we need to do so we can move forward. And a lot of times, like you're saying, we don't really deal with those things in our communities. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes we may have to have, sometimes they can be spiritual, we can get through them. And some people may have to have counseling too, to help them to get rid of trauma. So counseling for some people, the natural, they may need that to help them though, And
see, now that was long-term trauma on my behalf, as far as, like I said, finding my grandmother dead at that early age, and then carrying it all through basically my whole adult life. I mean, basically, you got to think about it. That was 8 or 9 years old. So that means from 8 or 9 all through elementary, junior high, high school, departed college, in the military, getting married, divorced, and then getting married again. So we're not getting married again, but all the way up until that time. So that was all basically most of my life carrying that trauma through my whole life of being afraid of death because of what I found my grandmother. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
You
That's a
know,
long
when you,
time.
yeah, and see when you think about that, yes, you need counseling, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so now, and then that was a long term. Now I just thought about, see, it didn't start making me think about other things, and so now you got the short term. So again, I can take this back to the military though. So when we used to go out training, you know we just going out there, it's just training, it's not real. But then sometimes real situations that happen to you. So we went out, we was in Germany, so we went out to the field, and when we went out there, we was only supposed to be out there like Friday, Saturday, and come back on Sunday. But what happened when we went out there, they didn't tell us it was gonna rain the whole weekend. So it's just constantly raining. So just imagine being out in the woods, you got to play the war game like it's real. You getting rained on 24/7. I mean, non-stop rain. Now you was only supposed to be out there for so long. Now everything that you have is wet. Everything, even the stuff that you brought now because you wore it the day before, stuff is soaked. Now you putting in new stuff. It's all soaked, so everything you got is soaking wet. Then on top of this constant rain, now you got these 24/7 mosquitoes dive bombing on you all day, and not, you know, like a lot of times mosquitoes will go away in the daytime, come back out at night. These mosquitoes was 24/7 from the time we got up, trying to eat, trying to do stuff. So now here you are, you got to practice war games like somebody's trying to kill you. It's raining on you 24/7, and these mosquitoes are tearing your behind up. You got big knots and stuff all over you, and ain't nothing you can do about it but keep standing at your post, laying in that grass or in that foxhole, whatever it is. You got to still go through everything like that.
They still do it like that now?
Yeah, I'm sure you got to go train. That's war. That's battle. You can't control the weather conditions. So when we got ready to leave out of there, and we was on the bus, and somebody said mosquito, boy, you should have saw me go stone crazy trying to kill that one little mosquito. And then when I got home, I just heard like mosquito buzzing at night. And then I was like, man, so
you just snapped a
yeah,
little bit,
so that
right?
was for that short, and that was just for that was a short term traumatic syndrome right there. But it can happen with anything, like you said, it can happen with anything that's got your mental and your emotional stress. See what I'm saying? Because being out there in that rain 24/7, mosquitoes 24/7 is something that I never had to deal with before. I couldn't just go run in the house or turn something on or spray some spray. It was none of that. You had to deal with that. And then you still had to practice like somebody's trying to kill you too. So you see what I'm saying? So all that mental stress and emotional stress was on you to deal with that, and you soaking wet, you cold, all of that. Just, you know what I'm saying? That's stuff to deal with, but that was only a short term, but it was still a part of it that I didn't realize at the time that that's what you call it. So anything could cause that. I mean, it depends on the person and what they're going through. It could be anything. You know, when I think about even in school, when we used to get paddlings, if you're a person that you can't take any type of discipline like that, and if the teacher or somebody tells you to go to the principal's office, and you know the principal got that big old paddle with the hose cut in it, and you know what he gonna do to your behind when you get there, that can cause post-traumatic stress syndrome.
For some people.
Yeah, for some people, because it's emotionally and mentally stressful for them to think about. They're getting ready to get their behind whooped. You see what I'm saying?
And you know, I think there was some level of trauma when I dealt with my sister passing, because I think for me, what really it caused some of that trauma for me. And it took God to come back and show me, because sometimes we don't always identify. Well, when I went into this is a perfect example. When I went into the home where they had to put her in the home because she could no longer live with us, because remember the cancer had spread it to her brain, and so she was having the seizure, and she couldn't live with us anymore. So when I went to that home, and this messed me up so bad when I went to that home, and we were talking, and when I went to see her, she went back to 20, 30 years ago. And I was just devastated because she did. It's like, I wasn't expecting it. See, when I'm going into the room, I knew she was so sick at that time, but I wasn't expecting her to be like this. I mean, you talk about, I just flipped because she was saying, tell Barrett, like she was married to him who she was married to over 20 years ago. She was talking to me like we were in school, and I just flipped because I couldn't deal with it. And so I think that really caused some trauma because that night I just had a meltdown leaving that place. Now, I had walked with a lot of stuff that messed me up with her, you know what I mean? But just seeing her with that, getting it all mixed up, it mentally messed me up pretty bad. So there's different things can upset your mental and your emotional.
So now since we're talking about post-traumatic, so that's after the fact. Mm-hmm. So how did her death affect you after the fact?
Now, here's the thing, what helps when you become a believer. Now, it took some time, a couple months, but because I knew, because God had been dealing with me and I was now a believer, now I was able to identify with what was wrong. And that was a big help because then God was able to help me to, release that trauma, that emotional trauma. Because that's exactly what it was. And God was able to help me to kind of mend me and kind of heal my emotions. Because emotionally, it messed me up pretty bad seeing her like that. But God was able to help me. But see, I was now able to identify, which in the past, as a little girl, when I dealt with trauma, I wasn't able to identify. So it just kind of lingers on and you don't even realize it. You see what I'm saying? But I will say, as a Christian, when you accept Christ and and he, you have someone in the boat with you, thank God that, you can get the help spiritually that you need. You know what I mean? And you have somebody to fight that battle and carry that weight
and then
for you.
And again, like you said, so and when you look at that definition, it'll start making you look at things and say, well, man, see, because then again, like as we always say, that in your get an understanding. So all that stuff that I was going through, I didn't understand why I was doing or going through that. But now that I look at it and I know what it is and I understand it, then it helps you to be able to deal with it. So as we were saying earlier, it's just like if you get a divorce. Now here you might have been with somebody 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 35, whatever the case may be. So you've been with this person all this time. You are emotionally and mentally involved for all those years, whether it was good or bad. It's still a emotional and mental connection that you had with somebody, whether it was a good marriage or a bad marriage. And so when that thing comes to an end, some people, depending on how they can deal with that, and again, it says with that vivid recall of the experience, it might take you years to get over a divorce.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of trauma caused from people when they've had a divorce. I've seen that a lot. And tell you how bad the trauma can get when you don't fix it. You have some people, I was talking to a lady some years ago, and she was telling me all about the husband and what happened. I was like, well, I'm so sorry to hear that. And oh my God, this how this trauma affects some people when you don't get the deliverance from it. I thought that they had just broke up. She was saying this like this had just happened, like within the 6 months or so. But when I found out, it was over 10 years. I was like, oh my God. So it sounded so fresh. See what I'm saying? And because that's what happens with any trauma, if when people don't get the help they need or get, if they're able to deal with it. And that thing was just like it had just happened with her.
And see, and that's why I like in this definition, it says, and constant vivid recall. See what I'm saying? So when you're going through that, when it's you, it's a vivid recall to you. So to you, it is like it just happened yesterday.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? Instead of 20 years ago. Correct. If that's something that's really mentally and emotionally stressing you and on you, then like they said here, it's a vivid recall, just like it happened yesterday. You see what I'm saying? So it can be some stuff in our situation. If something that we haven't dealt with, and then we start talking about it, then I might be like, you had like this happened yesterday. You see what I'm saying? Because of that post-traumatic stress syndrome of the situation and how it works on you. And same thing. So now, and see, when people, always say, well, pray and get over it. No, we'll pray for them and pray for them. But that person, that's an individual thing. Because I know, like I said, before I walked the love walk, I would used to tell people, well, all you got to do is pray and get over it. The word says God is this. And you can see what I'm saying? I'm throwing scriptures at this stuff and not understanding in godly love that people have to deal with their situation in their own time. Yeah. See what I'm saying? My sister, like I said, she was 4 or 5. I don't know how she had the understanding of how we found our grandma, but she's never mentioned. So I don't know if it affected her in a certain way or not. It might not even done anything to her. But it affects everybody in a different way. So there's different things depending on where your mind is and how you walk with God or however it is. You might have a divorce and get over it in a month. Somebody else might take 5 years. Somebody else 15 years. Because like I said, if you don't seek some kind of help or try to get some kind of help, or God help me, call on your Father to help you out, then you're going to stay with that thing because you haven't resolved that yet. Yeah. So it's always going to be an issue whether you put it down there and it comes up later when something triggers it or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, whatever you don't resolve will linger. It'll stay around,
And then, and you said something earlier, like with your mom and other places. So when you have people that's have emotional issues or addictions, whether it's drug addiction, alcoholism, whatever it is, as that person is doing what they're doing because of the addiction and what they're going through, then they don't know it because they're in an addiction. So they're in a sickness. So they don't see nothing past what's going on with them. But they don't know that the people that loves them, whether it's a wife, whether it's a husband, whether it's kids, they don't know the trauma that they're causing them by the addiction or whatever they're doing because they can't see that right now. So they're doing what they're doing, whether they're alcoholism or drugs, and then they leave and don't come back for days on end and all that kind of stuff, and they're in and out of the spouses and the children's life. And see, they don't even realize what they're causing their spouse or the kids trauma.
Yeah, because it brings a lot.
And then you see a lot of shows where, you see a lot of shows where the kids are all messed up and mad. Hey, you weren't there for us, and then you were supposed to meet us and never showed up, or you had money that you were supposed to buy Christmas gifts or buy us this on our birthday, and you spent that money on alcohol or drugs or at the racetrack or whatever the addiction was, gambling, whatever it is. Like I said, they're in that sickness, they're in that addiction, and not knowing what traumatic stress that they're putting on their loved ones.
Yes, that's a good one. Because you see that a lot, like you said, and the parent have no idea. Indirectly, they, not trying to do that, but it doesn't. Just the rejection, the neglect,
and the lies.
All
that is a traumatic stress on your loved ones because they're the ones that have to deal with you. They're the ones that I also have to tell other people lies about you while you going through. They'll be all right. They gone here now and we'll see them later and So they're lying, they're lying for you, trying to protect you in your situation. And that, like I said, and that whole time you're messing up, like I said, you're messing them up mentally and stressing them out. And then they end up getting sick behind you stressing them out.
Yeah, and I think it takes a while for some people, depending on where you are spiritually, to learn how to release things. Because I've not always been good at releasing things like I do now. Because, it's like it's learned as you walk more with Christ and your relationship is developed, because this is a marriage, a spiritual marriage with God. You and Him are one. And so it takes some time where you're able to be comfortable with releasing things. See, like I said, because as a child, I didn't know how to do that. And so as you get a closer walk with Him, though, it does help because, I know now, I just if something is upsetting me, you know, eventually I don't know, sometimes even if it may not be the first day, but the next day or so, I have to get in that word and like, God, you gotta help me. And I have to lay this right here. I can't carry this. Lord, I lay this at your feet. But see, that comes with years of training and practicing and knowing that I can't carry those things. You know what I mean? And some people that hurts them because they don't know how to get that release. You know, they don't know how to get that release.
And as I say on, and like I said, I'll probably be saying this every time we have a show. But since we're talking about that post-traumatic stress syndrome, and stuff happening to you somewhere in your life that you haven't dealt with, and you didn't know what it was. So again, once you truly start walking that love walk and you understand that God loves you, and you know that and you believe that and you love God, His word, and yourself, the closer you build that relationship, then the faster you can get out of that that bondage of that mental stress or that whatever the post-traumatic, like I said, because I carried it from age 8 or 9 all the way up until that point, till when I got saved. And then once I started learning and dealing with God, then that finally broke. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the good news is Jesus came to set the captive free. You know what? You don't have to be in prison with Him, because that's the one thing when we accept Christ. Jesus came to set us free from that captivity, whatever we held captive to, you know.
And see, and then when, you know, because somebody I was talking to a friend in Oklahoma on the phone today, and then he was talking about, you know, the verse about how can you love God that you don't see, and then you can't even love your brother who you do see. And that's why the love walk is so important, and that's why we always mention that, to help you get over things quicker by building that loving relationship with God and knowing that God loves you. Because then I always bring it back to us. If there's something going on with one of us that we're dealing with, and the other person, if we don't truly believe that if I don't believe that you truly love me, or vice versa, then I'm not going to come to you with my issue. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't truly know that God loves you, then why would you go to God with your issue? You see what I'm saying? If you have any doubt that God can help you, then why would you go to God? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's why the love walk is so important. So I know, and you know, with us loving one another and having that love for one another, that if there is an issue, then we can come to one another about that issue and talk that issue out and get it resolved, and then that issue will be released, and we don't have to talk about it no more.
And a bigger thing is not just loving each other, but just receiving His love from Him, because that's the big thing. If we don't receive His love, if you have a problem and we don't receive His love from Him, we're not going to be comfortable to trust Him, and we're not going to be comfortable to release those issues to Him. So that's a part of the love walk that is so important, is just receiving His love for us. I mean, everything starts with us receiving it first. And then as we receive His love, only then can we work our way to give it to someone else. And see, because when you don't receive His love, you're not going to go and trust Him with all the issues that you have. You're not going to trust Him to lay those things down. You know, you're going to try to carry them and pick them up on your own.
Yep. That's when you be in trouble, because then that's when you try to do anything under your own strength. Like I said, that's why I was in bondage with that post-traumatic for all them years, because I didn't know what to do with it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like I said,
stay in Egypt, stay a slave.
Until I became saved, got into the Word of God, and understood the love between us, then I was able to get rid of that after all those years of that stress, or that post-traumatic stress from finding my grandmother dead. So I mean, it's just crazy how now it all comes back to me. So now you can understand, when again you get your understanding. Now I can see why some of these women again didn't say anything, or it comes back, and just like you told a story the other day
with the Me Too movement.
With the Me Too movement, that then all of a sudden because you told me a lot of stuff about you, and even when that movement came about, you still didn't tell that story. But then here it is, just a couple weeks later, then all of a sudden, boom! Hey, this guy did this to me when I was 16.
Yeah, and and that's how, like you said, I mean, thank goodness that I didn't have.
And guess what? Guess what that was? post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah, and you're right. And one of the things though, when I recall that when that Me Too movement came out, I had, like I said, I had suppressed that back too, and so that's how I learned to sympathize with some of those women with the Me Too movement, because it's amazing. Like I said, now we've been talking about other issues, but now if you push it back to forward it to the Me Too movement with anything, see how you can suppress something and you don't kind of deal with it. So see, when that guy did that, and I was so young, and it's like, man, why are you doing this? I'm a kid. Like, I'm just coming from my first job. Like, I'm 16 years old. And so when he did that, this big old guy, you know, just hounded me on my first day of my job. It's like, it just disgusts me. And so, like, I was so turned off. But what I'm saying is, I just kind of hid that and never dealt with that. Okay. See, I just talked about that. You're right.
And let me read. So what you did. So let me read the definition of post-traumatic stress disorder again. So it's a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress. So is that what you had after that?
Well,
just a yes or no.
Yeah, okay. I guess I buried it.
So it was see, you're going too far. Just answer the question. So did you have a persistent mental and emotional stress of what occurred from that injury, as a result of the injury or the severe psychological shock? See what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes. So, and that typically involved disturbance of your sleep.
Well, I don't know if it went that far. As far as the loss of sleep, because I buried it.
No, I ain't say loss of sleep. I said disturbance of sleep. There's a difference between just losing sleep. It's a disturbance of your sleep.
That too.
And then then here's where you like you said, you might have buried it, because it says, and a constant, vivid recall of the experience.
It was pretty buried. And like I said, I kind of really buried that one. But like you were saying, it did help me identify with how people, you know, how sometimes with the Me Too, you can suppress something. I suppressed that because I didn't want to bring any adults in the situation when I was so young at the time, because I didn't want to get the guy in trouble. I didn't know if they was going to believe me. You see what I'm saying? So they like, why you ain't go back to that job? And so I was getting fussed at, but I'm like, I ain't telling them, because see, you see what I'm saying? I'm too afraid. You see what I'm saying? No, you're not going to believe me, you know?
Yeah, but the thing, like I said, what we're talking about so far is just how we can have post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder, and it doesn't have to be something where you went to war to go fight something. Correct. It could be something just simply that happened in your life that you haven't quite gotten over, and then
you haven't dealt with,
and again, from that definition, a lot of us have post-traumatic stress disorder over things that happened in our life that we didn't know what the definition of it was or what it was about. But now that we have this definition and we look back on some of the stuff that happened, then we can understand. That's just like somebody that's been in a car accident. That's why I always ask you, when I do certain things or do certain moves in the car, get to somebody too closer and you jumping in, I'm like, you sure you ain't never been in that car accident?
Say a lot,
because people that's, like I said, if somebody been in a serious accident, they have post-traumatic stress disorder when they see people get up too close on the cars, somebody come too close to them because they haven't dealt with it yet. You see what I'm saying? And then they have that vivid recall of the accident that they were in.
Yeah, and I have...
I know what's a perfect one for you.
What?
You scared of dogs?
Oh, my God! Oh, don't even go there.
That's a perfect one.
So I was about to say about the
car.
Accident. Yeah, I have a friend. You're right, and so the car flipped over, and I mean it was bad. And so this has been several years ago, and she does not drive on freeways ever. So it don't matter if it takes 2 hours to get to where she needs to go. That's what she'll do. So that's what I'm saying. You're right. See, that's a form of trauma.
Yeah, it is.
You know, because she's no longer able to take the freeways after all of these years, because when that car flipped and did that, it messed her up. And that's why if there's any trauma, like we're saying, we have to get the help we need and deal with it.
So since we know what's going on now, we can deal with this subject about the dog.
Yes.
So what happened when you was young that you got this post-traumatic syndrome about the dog? What happened to you that you just so scared and terrified of dogs? I don't care if it's a little teacup dog that you could just knock over.
This is my year.
You just run.
This is my year to get out of that trouble.
What happened? I need to know what happened with the dog.
I told you about the Dobermans.
They don't know what happened with the dog.
Oh, the Dobermans, when he pinned me on that car.
Okay, but so what were you doing? You walking down the street? You was hanging out in your yard? What happened?
Yeah, I was going somewhere in
How old were you?
Oh, probably 14, 15, 16, somewhere.
So now think about this. She's 14 and she already has a dog. What kind of dog did y'all have?
We had a big dog.
You had a big dog. Now, okay, and then, so that means you had a big old dog at home at the time. Already had a big dog.
Yeah.
So now you're 14-year-old. Let's just say you walking. You said 14. Now
I can't remember.
14, 15.
Too long ago.
Okay, so what happened then? You was walking down the street or what?
Yeah, and so this thing was just like a crazy outrage.
So was it just walking down the street? It just came running out somebody's yard?
Yeah, and the only way I tried to get from him, I had to jump on that car, and I had to stay on that car, and he just would not let me off that car. And I was like, Lord, please let somebody come and find me, because I cannot get
So you
off
saw
of
this
here.
Doberman picture running
God.
at you, barking like crazy.
He was trying to bite me.
Okay, but he was running at you, barking like crazy, right?
Yes.
You got scared.
Oh my God.
You terrified.
It was
so
bad.
you jumped on the car.
Yes.
And then the dog is constantly snapping at you, trying to bite you,
oh my God.
trying to get up on the car.
Yes.
Now the dog can jump and get on the car. Why the dog didn't jump and get on the car?
I don't know. Oh my God.
Who came and got the dog?
I can't remember.
So
I was so
messed up. Huh?
I was messed up.
Post-traumatic stress syndrome. I'm diagnosing you with that dog.
Oh my!
We got to get you into counseling so you can get over that.
I got to get counseling for
you
that.
gotta get over that.
This is going to be my year to get over that.
All right. So we're gonna help her get over there about the dog with that post-traumatic stuff going on with her.
Oh my God!
But in the meantime,
You're so
between
right.
time, yeah, see there, that's what I'm saying.
Oh
Once
my God.
until we
You just
finally
helped
got
me.
that definition of it, and that definition, like I said, it's a lot of things that we happen in our life that we just don't, we just never dealt with it about that. So
I haven't dealt with that one.
yeah, so we got to make sure that on that post-traumatic stress syndrome, you guys kind of start going back, and I'm going to read the definition one more time, so then that way you guys can get it, hear it, understand it, and say, you know something, that's what happened to me. That's what I had, and I need to deal with that now. So one more time, I'm going to read to you the definition of the post-traumatic stress disorder, because somewhere in your life, you probably got something that happened to you that caused you to have that, and you just didn't know it. Like I said, I just didn't recognize that that's what was going on with me all those years until today. So once more, the post-traumatic stress disorder is a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress occurring as a result of an injury or severe psychological shock. And see, we didn't even talk about the injury part. So, see, you can have post-traumatic stress syndrome from an injury that you might have received. See what I'm saying? Just like when you, well, let me take, like, from example, my mom, when she was little, and you know how you used to ride on the handlebars and your foot is right there by the wheel? Mm-hmm. And so she got her big toe caught up in the spokes and tore her big toe off. So she didn't have a big toe all her life, basically.
Wow, oh my goodness.
So if she never wanted to get on, and I don't remember her ever getting on a bike or seeing her on a bike, but see, she can have post-traumatic stress syndrome from that injury because her whole toe was gone.
Wow.
See what I'm saying?
Wow.
You got people that get injured, like I said, or fall off a horse and never get back on a horse, fall off a bike, and never get back on the bike. Like I said, get injured in a car accident, never get back in the car, never get back on the highway. So that's one of them. Like I said, stress occurring as a result of an injury or severe psychological shock. So typically involving disturbance of sleep and constant vivid recall. And I like that too, because it says constant vivid recall of that experience. And so, I mean, so if you look back in your life with things that you start thinking about and say, you know something? So I had post-traumatic stress syndrome over that because it fits that definition. Now that I know what it is and I understand it, now it's time to deal with it. Now all this time about the dog, now that you know, now it's time for you to deal with it.
I do want to deal with it.
So, you know.
I really would like to get help for that.
Well, hey, you know what to do, homegirl. Mm-hmm. You know what to do. So, to finish up these last little 12 minutes on here, this is going to be stuff that's going to be kind of real quick like. So you was going through there, even though it was long ago, somebody had put on your Facebook page the lady slapping the pastor, then the pastor slapping her back. And so that made me look at all these other videos, and it's just some crazy stuff going on out there. Most of them were old, but still it happened. So now, when it comes to, and this just men, period, when you know basically you are the stronger of the two, and even if you're not, let's just say, like for me now, so let's say I ran across Ronda Rousey. I know she's an MMA fighter. She can handle herself. She could probably beat me up. See what I'm saying? So now, if she was to hit me, if I hit her back, it probably wouldn't be considered that bad, because they say, well, she was an Olympic judo champ. She was in the MMA. Now she's a WWF or WWE wrestler. So she's athletic. She can take care of herself. So if she hit me and I hit her back, they probably wouldn't look at that as bad, unless somebody's a feminist and say you shouldn't hit a woman, period. So now, for me, and even though I was trained in the military and stuff like that, also even being trained in the military, you practicing different moves and doing different things. Even if another military woman that I know trained the same way I train, if she hit me, just because she hit me doesn't mean that I automatically going to start swinging and hit her back. See what I'm saying? Because as men, we know better. We know better. You hit back because you want to hit back. You know what I'm saying? Because if that's the case, if you're saying that as a man, if somebody, or make no difference like who it is, and they hit you, then your reflex is to hit them back. So you telling me then, if your mom got mad and slapped you, you would knock your mom out? You see what I'm saying?
Very good point.
Or your aunt, or your sister. So you going to be that mad because your sister or your aunt or your mom slapped you, so you going to cold cock them and knock them out?
Not good.
See what I'm saying? You know better. You know what you're doing.
Try to hold them down a little bit.
Yeah, you can do. It's a many of things that you could do. But again, you know what you're doing. So if a man is going to hit a woman back, that's not a reflex. That's what he wants to do. You see what I'm saying? He want to do that. So he don't have no regards for that woman.
She did like.
I don't care how she did it. You know, it ain't like I said, it ain't like when she slapped him that he was knocked out or whatever the case may be. You know, but he'll survive it. He won't. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He don't lose his man card because he got slapped by a woman and he ain't do nothing. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, definitely different ways to resolve it. You know, different ways you can resolve it if you want to.
Yeah,
you know?
And like you said, you know, being through dealing with different women on different things that get upset and been out of shape. And of course, a lot of women will try because they know. And then what sometimes on these videos what trip me out is because you know when you a man and you trying to hold up for a man and say, hey, I'm not going to hit no woman. But then that woman knows that, and they know most men grew up like that, where they were taught don't hit the woman. Because even with my sisters, I was always taught, no matter what they did to me, don't be hitting your sister. You see what I'm saying? So you don't lay your hands on a woman. But some women that know that would then use that to provoke a man. And I've seen videos like, well, what you gonna do? You gonna hit me now? You gonna hit me now? And they pushing them and hitting on them. But then you know that the person's not gonna hit you, but you're gonna still provoke them because you know that they're not gonna hit you. You see what I'm saying? Some crazy stuff like that. So why would you as a woman, knowing that the man can knock you smooth out, but knowing that he's trying to be an upstanding man and not hit you as a woman, why would you then use that to provoke him? What you ain't no man. I know you ain't gonna hit me. You ain't gonna hit me. And then you just keep punching on him and hitting on him and stuff.
Yeah, because, you know, you got to be very careful with that because everyone ain't not going to take that high road, you know. So that's why as women, we definitely have to be very careful because every person will not take a high road. I'm sorry, you know, they just won't, you know.
And I know Whoopi took some flack that time back in the day when Ray Rice knocked his girlfriend out before he married her. And she took flack on The View because she said, hey, if you a woman and you hit a man, then expect to be hit back.
Talking about when Whoopi said that
Yeah.
that time. Oh yeah, she
You
got
see what I'm
a
saying?
lot of.
But
flack.
she was just saying, you know,
She was just trying to tell him just not to put your hands. That's all
If
she was
you a
trying to
woman,
say.
don't think everybody was raised or brought up that way.
Yeah.
So if you hit a man,
Yeah, that's all she
as a
was trying to
woman,
say.
then be expected to get smacked back or knocked out or whatever the case may be, because everybody might not be taught or grow up. Don't hit a woman.
Yeah, and that's basically, I think, what her point was.
Yeah, so
trying
her
to
whole
say
thing
everybody's
was-
not going to take the honorable way.
If you gonna strike somebody, prepare to be struck.
yeah,
Simple
'cause
as that.
she just said everybody's not going to be honorable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's true, because some people will not be honorable. Some men will not honor that. You know what I mean? They just gonna flip. You know.
And see that even with all that all that goes back to what we're always teaching in Love Sync Ministry about, again, knowing that God loves you, so that way you can love him, his word, and yourself. So if you follow the love walk, and the part of the love walk, which I love it, like I said, every day I can always go to something, because part of the love walk says love is not easily angered. So if you're a woman and you getting toward a point where you are so angry that you think you got to put your hands on somebody, then you're not walking in love. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I love about the love walk, because it brings everything back to resolve everything in a peaceful manner. So if you're walking the love walk and you see something is upsetting you, again, we understand if somebody does something to upset us, then we understand they're not walking in love. If they're not walking in love, and we understand they're not walking in love because of something they say or do, then why are we getting upset by something that we know, if they're not walking in love, they're subject to do? So why are we getting upset about it? So see, then that keeps us from going here and keeps us right here. And like I said, then that keeps the other person from going there to think they got to put their hands on you. So yeah, you know, you got to get that love walk in you. You know, you got to get that love walk in you. And so, so speaking of post-traumatic stress syndrome, and then putting your hands on folks, then the last thing before we get up out of here, I have to bring this guy up, because I just can't get over this.
Oh boy.
Yep, and I know.
Oh boy.
I know people have heard him before. So why just want to act crazy all of a sudden?
So you probably better make your point quick.
Oh yeah, if it get to playing.
This message for all you black coward-ass pastors in this country who refuse to stand up and be real. And especially you weak-ass, water-carrying, shuffling, black-ass preachers who met with that motherfucking president yesterday, who believes in locking up brown children and don't give a fuck about black people. Especially you, Darrell Scott, when you make...
Now that's called, and
Goodness.
that's called the cussing pastor.
Wow.
So that means he says he's a God-fearing, Bible-toting man, and he don't play no stuff. But you heard his language and what he says and the way he says and how he says it. And if you look up the cussing pastor on YouTube, you'll find out that's what he does. He using the word, but he cussing you up and down and calling you all kind of, as you see, MFs, GDs, and B's, and everything. He used it all. Now, as a brother in Christ and us walking the love walk, I treat him like everybody else. I treat him as a thief, a murderer, a homosexual, an adulterer, whatever. I treat him the same way. He's still a child of God. So I love him. I just don't love his ways. Simple as that. So I love him because he's still a child of God. And like we love everybody's a child of God. Like we say, saved and unsaved. God made is everybody. We all from God. We all from love. Everybody is not going to walk in God's love. I understand that. So I love my brother, the cussing pastor. I just don't like his methods and his ways. I can do that. I don't like the way a homosexual lifestyle is, but I still love them because they're a child of God. I don't love the way a murderer will murder somebody, but I love them because they still a child of God. So I have to show them love because the Bible says that he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. So therefore, if my God is love, then that means my whole spirit is of God, which is love. So I have to show all of them love, but I don't have to agree with their lifestyle or what they do or how they do it. And that's how we see, that's how we can do that. That's why I don't have to get upset about what he's saying, the way he's saying, and who he's influencing, because I still, as a child of God, have to show him love, but I don't have to like the way he do what he do. Simple as that. And it keeps it, see how love just keeps it that simple? See how simple that is? Oof. I don't have to go off, because that was me 5-10 years ago. I would have been going off calling him. I wouldn't have cussed him, but I would have been saying how this and that he is. But hey, that's what we have to deal with. But that's why it's so important to walk in God's love. And so that's what we want y'all to do. It's 8:59 Texas time, and we about to get out of here. So once again, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we really want you to take this with you on this post-traumatic stress syndrome. Look up the definition, go through your life, and see what you might have. Like I said, it's not a veteran or a war syndrome. It's for everybody according to the definition. And there's probably something in your life that had that post-traumatic stress syndrome. You just haven't called it that yet. Now that you have a definition for it and you can call it that, you can understand that, and now you can deal with it. That's the best thing that we could have dealt with today. So once again, come back tomorrow. Oh, no, not tomorrow. My bad. Monday. Monday, come back. Same love time, same love channel. As always, I'm going to give my wife a kiss. She's going to go this way. I'm going to go that way. And we will see y'all on Monday.
Standing in my own scene, seems like they died out. They extinct, but my dream is the rise of we chasing the rise of the king, let the vibe bounce. But we